All right, we'll call the Fiscal Committee meeting to order for this Tuesday, September 2nd, a very special day. Okay. I need to call the meeting to order. Approval of the minutes from the meeting held April 2014.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made, seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, thank you. We'll move right into our reports and updates. We'll start with fleet management methodology and future changes. Dean, welcome.
Thank you, councilors. Dean Borkart with the Public Works Department. Here I thought it was because we were here that it's special. Now I assume that it must be special, particularly for you. So happy birthday is what I understand. Is that correct?
Thank you, yes.
All right. Well, we'll start it off right. Today, Scott Rust and I are here to give you a brief methodology of the Fleet Department, an overview, as well as some of the next steps that we'll be taking as we continue to look to centralize our Fleet Department. As we go through this process, I always kind of like to start and say, hey, what is the mission of our Fleet Department? And the mission statement is placed on our website. It's up in our facilities, but it's to provide a safe, cost-effective, and productive fleet of vehicles and equipment to our partners. These often are the mobile garages and offices that provide the services to every one of our departments. They need to get to where the work is done, and often that's not, we don't have many main water breaks in the middle of City Hall, thank goodness. So, this is what they use to provide those services. What is fleet management? Fleet management refers to the centralized purchasing, maintenance, and replacement scheduling of all mobile equipment and vehicles. Fleet Division was originally established as a division of Public Works in 2000. The intent was to develop methods to ensure vehicles are serviced, maintained, and replaced in the most cost-effective, safe, and efficient manner. The centralized acquisition of equipment. How can we look to use multiple pieces of equipment or a piece of equipment across multiple divisions of Public Works? The centralized operations and maintenance. Fleet established 4 fueling sites across the city for our vehicles to use. They have a motor pool of vehicles available to be used on a part-time basis for those that don't have a particular vehicle but need to travel occasionally for work, as well as then a centralized garage for the maintenance of these pieces of equipment. And then we manage the vehicles and equipment inventory. One of the things that we do is with that is provide a fleet of seasonal vehicles which are available for the part-time employees that come in that work during the summertime for the Parks Department or work for the Water Maintenance Department painting some of the hydrants across town. We don't need a brand new piece of equipment. What we have is a fleet of approximately 75 seasonal vehicles that have been pulled out of service but still have life in them, and we will use them for those summer months to take care of those services. And then once they fail, we put them on the auction and then dispose of them and keep cycling those through at that time. And then the replacement planning of vehicles. We have established a revolving fund that the rental payments are made directly into that has a dedicated source for the replacement of those vehicles when their life cycle has been completed for the city. The department and finance review the replacement requests annually. We look at usage, any underutilized piece of equipment. How can we use it more, and can we transfer it within another department to try and balance that usage? We are trying to maximize every piece of equipment we have, and if you can't put enough of the hours on it, we challenge it completely to find alternative uses and increase the utilization. We don't want pieces of equipment not being used across the city. We look at maintenance costs. We want to try and make the life cycle of a piece of equipment before it provides a major failure. We don't want to invest $2,000 or $3,000 in a major repair on a piece of equipment that even when we're done fixing it is worth $2,000 or $3,000. So we try and take that life cycle and make sure we replace it before those failures occur. And then, like we always said, opportunities for cross-department utilization. We want to find pieces of equipment that multiple divisions and departments can use because sharing that equipment rather than having it one here in this department and one here in this department saves the city and the taxpayers' dollars. But like we talked about before, our intent is to ensure that our partners have the appropriate and safest piece of equipment necessary to complete their mission. Who are our fleet partners? Today, like I said, we established it with Public Works. Since that time, Central Services, Police, Library, Urban Management, Community Development, and Public Parking have at least done their maintenance, and some of them are completely engulfed within fleet at this point. Potential future partners, right now, the Fire Department and Parks and Recreation are outside of the fleet. Why aren't we centralized? I think we kind of touched on it briefly when we originally talked about the budget process. Today, the fleet software we have is tied to the HTE system, which has been replaced with the Munis financial software. We are looking for that next piece that will make sure. So we are trying to ensure when the fleet centralization will meet the needs of all current and future partners. So like we say, how will we do that? The fleet study is the next piece that we'll be seeing. Right now, the Public Works Department, the fleet team, the financial team, our partners have all started to draft a fleet RFP to bring in a consultant to make sure that we stand up the organization to ensure that it'll meet the needs of our current partners and our future partners. It will look at the things that are on your screen, organizational, operational structure. We'll be looking for insight on the best business practices. We'll be looking for suggestions as to the software that will best meet the needs of our team. It will also be looking at facilities, facility locations, vehicle utilization, our parts operation, what we store in-house, what we get locally, the fuel program and the potential use or increase of alternative fuels, technology to complement our fleet operations, as well as reviewing what we're doing for our fleet funding, chargebacks, and cost recoveries. This comprehensive review of the operations is to establish the best practices for all departments to have the best opportunity for success. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and he can kind of walk you through in a greater detail the replacement process that we go through with our rolling stock.
Well, rolling stock is defined, we give us some examples up there of pickups, tractors, mowers, police vehicles, fire trucks, sanders, sedans, and then other implement type of equipment. On an annual basis, Dean and I meet with all the city departments when we get ready to put the capital plan together, and we discuss with all the city departments their needs for replacement and any additional needs for equipment for their department. In rolling stock, we define it in two different ways: a new piece of rolling stock and a replacement. A new piece is actually a piece of equipment that actually it increases the city's fleet, the number of pieces of equipment through the fleet. And a replacement is just that we're replacing the existing piece that is out in the department. Like I said, this team will meet with every single department every year, and we'll go through their entire capital equipment plan, our OSEP plan, and review the utilization, maintenance, justifications, and so forth of all of their equipment. Over the past 5 years, you can look at the new pieces of rolling stock that we've added from 2011 to 2015. We've added approximately, anywhere from 4 to 9 pieces of equipment depending on the year. So it's not a lot of new pieces of equipment that are replaced. The reasons for replacing new equipment or getting new equipment, a lot of it is tied to growth in the city, Program growth is a big one in the Parks and Rec Department as the programs grow or they develop new programs. Growth in personnel. There's times when people need tools to do their job, and sometimes a vehicle is a tool to do their job. So those are some of the reasons why we're buying new rolling stock. Some other examples are, our median maintenance has gone up. Sidewalk snow removal has become more of an important issue in the city. Increased activity at the sporting complex and the increasing growth of the city. The next slide here shows you the new rolling stock by type. You'll see we've got a little bit of everything out there over the last 5 years. Skid steers and tractors, that are used for snow removal and Zamboni on ice, excavators, for public works, fire response, new fire trucks as we've opened up new stations, and turf equipment, pickups, and you name it. It goes on down the line. With that, do you have any questions for Dean or I?
Any questions from the committee? Councilor Karski.
Couple questions. How do we determine who gets priority with the resources we have, a police car versus a library truck or something like that? I mean, do you have a metric for doing that?
Well, funds are always tight, and when it comes down to it, the fire truck, obviously, EMS is going to take a little bit more of a priority. Now, I'm not saying that library services is not important. It is. But you have to look at the whole picture. And we take a look at the whole picture, and if we come up to a number at the end and we say, hey, we take it back to the finance team, and they say, well, you got to cut $100,000 or $200,000 out. You take a look at that, and we go back to the departments and say, hey, what can we and what can we not live without? I mean, is there a way that we can get creative here and try and stretch the life on that piece of equipment if budget dollars are really that tight?
Okay. And follow up, I think your second slide was on potential future partners. Is this inclusive of, would that be all the city departments at that point if you had those two? Okay.
That would be all of the city departments, yes.
Who makes the decision? Who pulls the trigger? Parks and Rec is going to be part of the fleet. Where does that come from?
Well, the big thing, I think it's going to come from the study. We're going to hire this consultant. We're going to send out this RFP. We're going to evaluate fleet, and we're going to ask him for a recommendation. Does it make sense for fleet or for parks to be in fleet? And we will take a look at that. And if he says, yeah, it does, or he'll say, well, a certain percentage of parks, we'll look at those recommendations. We're going to be sending this RFP to some industry experts out there that have done quite a few of these evaluations.
Councilor Anderson.
Scott, I'm going to give you a chance to promote one of your big events during the year. I believe you have your auction coming up. You want to speak to that? Yes,
there is a citywide auction coming up here. I don't know the date off the top of my head. I'm not the auction expert, but I believe it's in the next few weeks. We've got the auction coming up. All the information is out on the city's website. It is probably going to be one of our largest auctions that we've ever had. We have a lot of local partners, school districts and other small cities, so there should be a nice assortment and collection of vehicles, equipment, office furniture, you name it. So lots of good stuff out there.
Scott, if I could, the Councilor Rolfing had really asked us to come to the committee. One of the issues that we were trying to get across or get covered was the methodology about replacement of the vehicles. How we budget or should budget for those cars to be replaced, how that process is handled, the leasing back or the rental rates or however you kind of figure it out so that when that vehicle is used up, that there's money set aside and available for the purchase to replace that vehicle. Could you walk through that?
Yeah, I'm going to let Dean walk through that because he handles that part of fleet.
What we do when we replace that piece of equipment. Ultimately, there'll be a purchase price that, let's just use $100,000 for a truck that came in, and we expect that to be a life cycle of approximately 10 to 12 years. We will determine and lay out that. What we use in the City of Sioux Falls is a double declining balance methodology. So basically, you're paying more up front on that replacement value on an annual basis. So if it would fail before that life cycle you've still collected the majority of that rental payment, and then the tail end of those years you don't collect as much. But ultimately, we establish a replacement value that we expect that truck to be at the end of its life cycle. So ultimately, if it costs us $100,000 today, we realize that we're not going to buy it for $100,000 10 years from now. So we establish a percentage increase annually, which we've seen depending on, it will vary. Heavy equipment's grown at a higher rate than what a sedan probably has for our basic purposes. But we do determine what that replacement value will be at the end of its life cycle, and that's what we collect and rent over its life cycle and put those payments directly into the fleet revolving fund. They are there dedicated so that fleet, when that vehicle needs to be replaced, would purchase that vehicle. It doesn't come from the general fund or anything else. Those rental payments previously came from the general fund and were placed into the revolving fund, so that dedicated source is there for replacement. The other advantage of it is you're doing that across rolling stock for public works. We estimate anywhere around 400 pieces. So we're collecting that rent. So if you do have a failure prematurely, you can offset that and then collect more on the next piece. So if you had scheduled it for 10 years of life and you only got 7 out of it because of a major failure, then you could use other funds within the fleet to cover what you hadn't collected and then make up for that with the next collection. I'm trying not to get too far down, but basically we establish a replacement value and a life cycle for every piece of equipment, and those funds are available at the end of that life cycle for purchase.
And it's literally put into a savings account?
It is dedicated fleet revolving fund. It is not accessible to anything else. It's an internal service fund, correct. You'll see it on the monthly sheets, fleet revolving fund as a standalone account.
Okay. And then as far as this RFP that's going out to do the study, I think that's probably a wise idea, at least from my opinion. We catch a lot of flack from individuals who tell us about these city vehicles driving all over town, wasting gas, hanging out at restaurants and, places like that. Is a GPS tracking system a part of that study? Will it be?
There was one of the line items that we look at is technology to be used in coordination with our fleet. So yes, we would be asking for ideas as to how to potentially monitor all of our equipment that's rolling throughout the city. It would be advantageous to know where everything's at all times. It just costs. Right now the biggest challenge is a dedicated service, almost like a cell phone to monitor every one of those. It isn't so much the upfront cost to get the piece of equipment on there. It is also just the monthly costs that have to be paid annually to make those investments.
I just think that would be a good information for us to know just what the cost would be, at least on priority equipment that you have. A lot of businesses do that.
Absolutely.
And it's a great tool for them, but I think for the public it would reassure them of what's going on and what's happening, and it'd surely hold the drivers and users of those vehicles accountable for their actions and other things. So
I would agree with you 100%. We certainly let our drivers know that we have 166,000 people watching where they're at on a daily basis. They can expect to be reported if they're in a place where they shouldn't be. I think that the citizens have reported on certain instances. We realize that, and we expect that to be somewhat of a police already in place without having an official GPS system.
That's just a side note of all of it, but thank you very much for that. Councilor Rolfing, was there anything that you didn't get answered or wanted as long as you're here.
Hi, Rex Rolfing, City Council. I thank you for taking this on. I think it's an important piece of information that all of us need to know and probably didn't know the details of, and I think it goes even deeper than that. I kind of was talking to Greg ahead of time, saying that when our budget comes through somewhere down the line, it would be nice to know that the only vehicles that we see on there are for replacement vehicles, or for new vehicles, not for replacement, because the replacements are happening automatically. And this is one of the things that I thought was interesting, that people in Sioux Falls should know, along with us, the way it works. Something of interest to me also was the idea in the study that we're going to have done, Scott or whoever maybe can talk about that, was the idea of alternative fuels. We've had some discussions with Sam about this possibility, and if you could touch on that just a little bit, I think it would be worthwhile, because I'll be very interested in what they come back with on that.
As part of the RFP, we did put a bullet in there that we would like to study alternative fuels. There's been a lot of push in the transit industry for compressed natural gas. As you all know, with the fracking process of natural gas has become more abundant in the United States, and it is relatively cheap to purchase. So we're going to study that, because the upfront cost to bring a pumping station in and a storage location is fairly significant. So along with the cost of the equipment. We just went through an RFP and are going to got some costs on what it would cost for a bus, and I think it was somewhere right around $8,000 or $9,000 just to outfit a bus. But it is something that we are going to look at, because we want this consultant to look to see if there's a payback after if we were to install this equipment, what would that payback period be, and is this a sustainable alternative solution for this alternative fuel going into the future. Fracking is becoming more and more looked at on the EPA level as a bad thing too. Now we'll see what happens, but they'll give us some insight on compressed natural gas. We have looked at electric vehicles. We have looked at hybrids. So there's a lot of things that we have looked at. We don't have a hybrid here in the city yet, but we can't get it to pencil out yet, where we buy our fuels a little bit cheaper, and the mileages that we get, it just hasn't penciled out quite yet to show that there is a good payback there yet. So we're continually looking at it. We are still using alternative blend fuels. The ethanol, we're still pushing that. We contract a lot of ethanol. All we contract and buy is ethanol fuels. So that is our main source of alternative fuel at this point.
Yes, Councilor Erickson.
Just a quick question, not in regards to what you just said, but as far as the maintenance of the fleet vehicles, I know someone touched a little bit on it during our budget process. Is that something that we're trying to wrap our hands around and do all the maintenance ourselves, or what? If you could maybe just explain that a little bit.
Yeah, more. I don't think the effort is for us to do it all ourselves. We look at the repair, as we look at every repair in general down at Fleet. And does it make sense for us to do it ourselves or outsource it? Sometimes these repairs take specialized tools, or they may take more time than we have available with our current staff. So at that point, we might outsource it. So for example, I'm going to use one that's near and dear to my heart because I worked on it, was the replacement of an engine in a plow truck. It made sense for us to outsource that rather than to try and do that ourselves, because the number of man hours it would have taken to pull that engine and slide in a new one during the middle of a snow season is probably not a wise use of our time. So we look at every repair at Fleet and try and make the best decision. And if we should do it in-house or we should outsource it.
To follow up, if you had to guess, do you think we do 50%, 75%, 10%?
I would say we're doing at least 75% in-house at Fleet. I can't say, I'd have to look at some of the other departments, like Fire. Fire does a fair amount in-house. Some things do go to the dealership. We do a lot of work with Allison Transmissions or Cummins, where we don't have the specialized tools to do some of that work. But yeah, I'd say 75% probably stays in-house right now if we're just talking Fleet.
And speaking of maintenance, I do remember an audit report that was done some time ago, and they evaluated some of that maintenance and how they were getting it shopped around and utilizing different groups of people, so they just didn't have one. I'm pretty sure they were doing a pretty good job of.
Yeah, we do shop it around. Not everybody gets the work. I mean, it's usually goes on a quote by quote basis. Who's willing to do it, and a lot of it. Well, and sometimes it comes down to who can get it done for us. For example, the landfill equipment. There's a lot of Caterpillar equipment out there, very specialized. They're handling a lot of that track work on it. That is just so specialized that there's no way our folks can do it. But we do try and shop it around when we definitely can and look at the time period and the impact that it'll have being out of service.
Okay, Scott, Councilor Anderson.
Just one more thing. I wanted to go back to the auction. It is September 20th this year. I believe it starts about 10
it starts at 9
in the
o'clock,
morning. If you haven't gone to a public auction, it's more than just the city. The city does allow other municipalities in the area to bring their items in too, and it's usually pretty well turned out. And I just think it's something that if you haven't been to one, it's really interesting to go see.
Scott, if I could, thank you. Sorry, Scott, if I could, the RFP and the work that you're doing on that, has that already been authorized and approved? Are you in the process of?
It has not gone out. It has not hit the street yet. The RFP is done. Dean and I and all the stakeholders put it together. It has not gone out yet. So we're waiting for final approval before we put it out on the street.
Okay, and I think, are there any other questions? I think on behalf, thank you, Scott and Dean.
You're welcome.
I think on behalf of the Fiscal Committee, we wanted to just review this process and create a public awareness of the process and what you're doing. I don't know that we have any action that we need to take except thanking you for your presentation. Anything else that the Fiscal Committee would want to review or talk about? Open discussion? Certainly we have the budget coming up shortly, and I don't have those dates in front of me, but as we've done in the past, we've always encouraged the councilors to meet with Dave Bixler and go through the budget, ask questions, and make sure you understand it as well as you can before you vote. All right, I don't have anything else. Anybody? Take a motion to adjourn? We have a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.